Hi, this is Julie Hart, and you're listening to Pipebomb Radio, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be.
Howdy, howdy, everyone. This is Paul London, the Intrepid Traveler, and you are listening to Pipebomb Radio.
Hey, this is professional wrestler and certified DDP yoga instructor Stevie Richards telling you that you're listening to Pipebomb Radio.
This is the King of the Mountain, Jeff Jarrett, the founder and CEO of Global Force Wrestling, and you're listening to Pipebomb Radio.
I'm waking up, in my bones, enough to make my system blow.
You're listening to Pipebomb Radio with your host, the founder, Felix Olmedo, and the Godfather, Nate Milton.
Welcome to the new age. I'm radioactive.
Welcome, everybody, to a very special edition of Pipebomb Radio this week as we pay tribute to the Rowdy one, Roddy Piper. He passed away July 31st due to cardiac arrest, and his loss was such a tremendous, it was felt tremendously through the entire entertainment world that we here at Pipebomb Radio had to take part in showing our respects to Hot Rod, because, you know, he meant a lot to us as fans who grew up watching him. I got to meet him, as I mentioned last week. And tonight we will go back and relive some of Hot Rod's most infamous promos. And I actually was able to sit down and talk with a few people that knew Hot Rod and shared their memories of working with him. Not to mention, we'll talk about something that was very near and dear to his heart, a anti-bullying campaign organization that he was working with and had plans to work with as well. We also have a very big surprise, as one of those guests is a blast from the past. It is very interesting because when I announced that we were going to be doing the Piper tribute, they got in contact with me. And I always wondered after whatever happened to this person after you know, their run-in with Piper, and, well, you get to hear all about it later tonight. Nate will be joining us here in just a bit. For those who don't know, it is his birthday today, so he's running a little bit late. So if you all join me in wishing Nate a happy birthday, we'll do that for him later in the show. But without any further ado, I felt maybe it would be best for now, at this point, to kick it off with WWE's tribute to Hot Rod that they did for him last Monday night. I thought it was a very touching tribute, very nicely done, very touching words. We'll be back after this tribute from WWE.
Ladies and gentlemen, to honor the life of WWE Hall of Famer, Roddy Piper, would you please rise as we toll the bell 10 times?
I've been selling my name for the sake of who knows. I've been trying to explain how it's all gonna go. I don't take my life for granted. I've been waking up tight day after day. Hope is taking its time to go my way, but I don't take my life for granted. I'm gonna hold on tight to what I've been handed.
He is the original trash talker.
You do not throw rocks at a man who's got a machine gun!
He knew how to make people mad.
Who am I calling fatso? Take your choice!
Through entertainment, he made him mad.
We know how intelligent you are! Oh, yeah? You do it!
Yeah! How low can you go?
I came on the show. How low can I go?
Look at yourself. Tell me, who do you see? Is it the person you've been or the person that you're gonna be?
Just when they think they got the answers, I change the question.
It takes guts to walk down Hollywood and Vine looking like this.
Yo, Mr. Downey, give me that smoke, would ya? Yeah!
Welcome to Piper's Pit.
Thank you very much for having me.
I kind of like you.
Rowdy Roddy Piper. Energy beyond belief.
So much passion and so much heart.
Talent beyond belief.
He is one of a kind and always will be.
So far ahead of his time, but down to earth and one of the best people I've ever known in my entire life.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Don't take your life for granted.
Look at Cameron 3 and you tell him what you got to do. I'll give him a message, baby.
Don't take your life for granted.
You come to see me fight. You got your money's worth. When I was well, I was hell, man. And I had you all rocking for 80 years.
'Cause you just don't know how long you will have it.
Let's go, Rowdy!
Welcome back, everybody, to Pipebomb Radio. If that song taught us anything, is that Roddy never took life for granted. He lived it to its fullest. He experienced everything in life that there was out there to experience. He's the kind of guy that just said he'd been there and done that, and he really had. He had gone there and done everything, and he was fearless. He didn't care, and, I'll tell you, in the 70s, in professional wrestling, even in the 80s, some parts of the 80s, the wrestling business was so protected. You either were in or you were the outsider looking in and trying to figure out how to get in. And if you could take the butt whoopings they would give you, you were in. But you had to keep coming back for more. And Hot Rod, he was crazy enough to come back for more. And God love him. This morning, he was laid to rest, and I know it was mentioned by his daughter, Ariel, that the family wanted the entire world to take a moment of silence for Roddy at 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time as the funeral processions were going, and family and friends were there to be with Roddy's family, his wife, Kitty, and his children. I know he's mentioned Colt, Ariel, Fallon. I believe there's another one. I don't know the name of the other one, and I apologize for that. But moving on with the show, when I started to plan the idea of the show, I wanted to make it something really special. And I'm blessed to say that I've had some great contacts over the years, being the host of Pipebomb Radio, talking to so many greats, so many people that knew Hot Rod. And one of the first people I want to, let you guys listen to as far as who he was and what he felt Roddy meant to him. He is one of my closest friends, one of the nicest men you'll ever meet. So humble, very, very down to earth, just like Roddy. Except Roddy was more braver, as he would like to put it. I mean, obviously this person would say that. The first person I'm going to put on for you guys to listen to, I spoke to him this weekend, and he happened to be the last person that was a guest on Roddy's podcast, the Piper's Pit Pod. None other than the genius Lanny Poffo. Here are his thoughts on Roddy Piper. What kind of memories do you have working with Roddy? I know you two. I listened to that podcast that you guys did. I was entertained the entire show. You two, and then Roddy, his infectious laugh, and you guys were just having a great time. And
are we on the air now?
Well, we're recording right now, so we're not live.
Okay. Okay. Well, I met him in 1978 and 79 when I was working for Don Owen in Portland, Oregon. And I was there 2 weeks before he showed up. And I had already heard about him, that he was a nice person and that he was really drawing money in Los Angeles. And I couldn't wait to see him because a lot of times, you know, you hear a guy's a nice person and it isn't true, or you hear a guy drew money and he isn't that great, you know. So
yes, sir.
He wrestled Johnny Eagles and just electrified the people with his bagpipes and his attitude and then his match. And then he goes around and has an interview, and I said, this guy has more charisma in his little finger than I've ever seen in anybody's whole body. This guy's more bang for the buck. I mean, can you imagine buying a ticket and then paying to see Roddy Piper? How could you not make out like a bandit, you see?
Absolutely.
And then he comes back to the locker room, and he's a nice person, and he's happy, and I wrestled him several times and loved every moment of it. And then I'll never forget the time he came up to me, and he said, you know, I feel that you would be great in Los Angeles against the Guerreros as a heel. And if you want me to, I'll make the phone call. And he did. And I was on the phone with Mike LaBelle, and I was going to come in, but happenstance made it so I couldn't come in. And it's one of the greatest regrets of my life, because my goal was to get over so well that Mike LaBelle called up Roddy Piper and thanked him for bringing me in. You see what I mean? For recommending him. I didn't want to make a fool out of Piper by, you know, I was so touched that, because in this business, sometimes people do something for you, but usually they do something against you.
Yeah.
And you have to overcome the inertia of the negative helper. So this Roddy Piper, he was only out to make people better. He cared about the fans, the boys in the locker room. He was for everybody, like his song in that movie, and that, remember For Everybody?
Yes, sir.
The Pile Driver album?
Yes, sir.
And I think if you really want to sum up Roddy Piper and his philosophy, it was, I came here to chew, I like to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble gum. And I said, wow, what a moment. And then, his son Colt, I met him in New Orleans, and I heard fantastic things about him. He did not disappoint. This guy is chip off the old block. And I've also heard fantastic things about his other three children. And, just wrestling has a great loss by Piper, and so does the world.
It's like I told my partner on the show, this loss it hurt it hurt equally as bad when we lost Randy, because these two were such equal, to me, in my opinion, they were such humongous icons, but at the same time so down to earth. So they didn't see themselves as celebrities. They were willing to give you the shirt off their back, and just they loved the fans. They adored the fans, and they loved kids. They both loved kids. and they meant so much to so many.
And you were talking about the Macho Man and Roddy Piper, and I thought of a story that will explain how much I love both men. Okay?
Please.
Well, as you probably have guessed, on March 28th, I had the honor of inducting my brother into the WWE Hall of Fame. But I wanted to give the fans an insight into the fact that not only Randy was a great man, you already knew that.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to emphasize what a good man he was. Because the thing is, of course you knew he was a great man. All you have to do is, you know, if you have any of the DVDs or
Sure.
WWE Network. I mean, if you've ever seen, I don't have to tell you that Ricky Steamboat and Savage had a fantastic match one night. You know, I don't need to tell you that. Or that Randy's interviews are memorable. Okay? That is not what I needed to tell you, because if you don't know that, then you don't know anything.
Yeah.
So, but what you didn't know, and that I was the only one that knew what a good man he was, and I wanted to tell that. Well, naturally, my speech was very well received by the people in the WWE and the other wrestlers. Well, thank you. It was very well rehearsed and very well received, let's just say that. But then something happened that made my life.
Okay.
Roddy Piper came up to me and gave me a hug, and he said, "Lanny, that was beautiful. You made me cry." Roddy Piper was very kind to me, and he was real decent with everybody else. For some reason, oh man, we just clicked, and I was very proud to be on Piper's Pit, the final episode on his podcast.
And there you have it, very intriguing words. And, you know, it is, and I know it meant a lot to Lanny, for Roddy to say that about his speech. And Roddy was the kind of man that wore his heart on his sleeve. And if we talk about his career for a little bit, obviously, for those of us who've been fans of Roddy for many years, know that he got his start in professional wrestling at 15, and they offered him $25 Canadian. He always got a kick out of that, to get in the ring with Larry the X Hinnick, a big, big dude. And he still believes that he had the shortest match in the history of the Winnipeg Arena, 10 seconds. As he put it, the bell rang, and the bell rang. And he looked up to some of the guys in the wrestling business that took him under his wing, guys like a Judo Gene LaBelle, Mad Dog Vachon, Muhammad Ali, and even the great Lou Thesz. I've listened to a few of his podcasts, and he always talked about Mr. Thesz and Mr. LaBelle many, 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 many times. He even talked about Mr. T, but we'll get into that a little bit later. And Roddy was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2005 with an incredible class of superstars that were really the highlight, the main event, if you will, of WrestleMania 1. And then to be in there at WrestleMania 21 weekend, and to be inducted by his longtime friend, Nature Boy Ric Flair, I think that was the icing on the cake. And I'm just so blessed and thrilled that I could have been there to watch it. It was an incredible speech, and let's just say that kind of gift that Roddy had, it's a very rare thing. Very rare thing. But I want to keep this momentum going. I'm not going to talk your ear off too much. I want everybody to hear so much tremendous memories that we have for Roddy. And the next person I'm going to put on here that I spoke to this weekend is somebody from an organization who Roddy was very passionate about. And if you've been on RowdyPiper.com, you'll know. It is the organization Stand for the Silent. And there is a video on the website. Feel free to check it out. I will be playing it here in just a moment. In just a little bit. But his name is Kurt Smalley, and he gives his thoughts on what Roddy meant to him.
he had a way of making everyone he met feel special, feel
Yes,
like he really cared about what they had to say, what was going on in their life, and he made everyone that he met feel like he was their friend. You know, far too many people think that because he plays the villain or played the villain, that he was a bad guy. And, you know, that is the farthest thing in this world from the truth. That man had a heart of gold. He, like I say, he reached out to us. He wanted to get involved. He loved kids, not just his. He loved all kids. And he wanted to help. He found out that we were losing far too many. One is too many, and he was passionate about trying to make that stop. He truly was down to earth. You know, he was just one of us. He was a real person, and you know, he didn't let it go to his head. He just wanted to. I mean, I know he knew that he had a powerful voice and a presence. I know that for a fact because of all the people that you know have reached out since his passing, especially, and all the stories that these people have told. But at the same time, you know, he did keep it real. He realized that, you know, at the end of the day, he puts on his pants one leg at a time, just like everyone else. And
Yes, sir.
You know, he didn't take advantage of that fact. In fact,
Now, let me ask you, sir, are you, growing up, were you a Roddy Piper fan? Did you ever watch professional wrestling back in the 80s?
Roddy Piper was very kind to me, and he was real decent with everybody else too. But for some reason, oh man, we just clicked.
Sorry about that, guys. I guess it got cut off there for Mr. Smalley and kind of intersected with Mr. Poffo. My apologies, but Mr. Smalley, we thank you, and please check out standforthesilent.org and make donations in the name of Hot Rod. That was an organization he was extremely, extremely passionate about, and we'll play that commercial in just a little bit here. But we are going to welcome my partner here, the birthday boy, Mr. Nate
What
Milton.
is going on, Brother Felix?
Oh, man. Just listening in on some of the incredible things that were said about Hot Rod. You know, we were just kind of talking as each clip has been played, a little bit about Hot Rod from his start when and I was going to touch on this too because I was starting to talk about his match with Larry the Axe and how he had his bagpipe guys lead him to the ring and they didn't know who he was. They just knew his name was Roddy. So they decided that's how he got the name Piper, Roddy the Piper. And, you know, I found myself watching that Born the Controversy, the Roddy Piper story, and I can hear myself saying it in his voice. They offered him $25, he pauses, Canadian, and he gets a giggle out of that every time. And he says he still believes he had the quickest match in the history of the Winnipeg Arena. The bell rang, and then the bell rang. And I had some clips that I had on here that I played with Lanny Poffo, who had incredible things to say about Roddy. And I just finished the one from the gentleman who represents Stand for the Silent, which was an organization that Roddy was a part of and very passionate about, which is about children who were getting bullied and ended up committing suicide. Very sad, but you know what? Knowing how much Roddy loved children, I couldn't see how he wouldn't be part of it. I know that if Randy was here, Randy Savage, he would be part of it too. I can imagine. But we'll take away from this for a moment, and now that you're on, what kind of memories do you have of Hot Rod?
Oh man,
and we go back to the clips here in just a moment.
So many. I mean, I think for most people, you know, my age or maybe even a little bit younger, my first exposure to Roddy was not in the WWF because living in Virginia, most of the wrestling I consumed was either NWA, you know, the Crockett stuff, or World Class. So my first exposure to Roddy wasn't through the WWF, you know, in terms of their wrestling. It was through Hulk Hogan's cartoon, you know, Rock and Wrestling. And It was just a great little cartoon, and he had everybody played their little parts, and I was just drawn to this crazy, over-the-top villain on the show, and I was like, that guy's probably pretty interesting. And then it just so happened when that cartoon started to air, we started to get the Sunday show. I think it was the main event that used to come on USA, and so then we got to see some of Piper's stuff, and I believe that was around the time where he was having the feud with Bad News Brown, where he painted himself half black, half white.
Oh, my goodness. Or as Roddy would say, oh, baby Jesus. Oh, baby Jesus.
And I think the first thing that kind of stuck out to me with Roddy Piper was very similar to what we were talking about when we did our Dusty tribute a few weeks ago, is that Roddy had a great connection with the audience, and he knew how to draw you in. He knew how to make you hate him. And I've been on record these past few weeks saying that Roddy Piper was the original cool heel. Nowadays we talk about guys that want to be heels but also want to get cheered. Roddy was the opposite of that. He knew how to be cool but still make you hate him and still make you want him to lose and still make you just want to see the good guy get his hands on Roddy. And that was just a great thing. He was obviously one of the best talkers ever. I think in terms of villains in the sport of wrestling, it's Piper and Flair in whatever order you want to put them, but those are my two top villains ever, and it's just sad, man, because we lost him too soon. 61 is way too young for us to be having a tribute show about this man.
Amen. I mean, I would have done a show in honor of Roddy either way, but not like this. Not after obviously, for those who don't know already, obviously, we know that Hot Rod was laid to rest this morning with his family, and they asked for fans to take a moment of silence in honor of Hot Rod and pay their respects. I did mine, and I'm sure many other fans did theirs. It is a shame, but knowing Hot Rod, as most of the fans feel like we all connected with him at some point or another, he wouldn't want us boo-hooing. He would want us to celebrate. He would want us to, celebrate the life, a rowdy life at that. A man who really lived it to its fullest and then some. A man, he himself, he claimed he should have been dead many times, years ago. And he survived it all, and one tough son of a gun.
It's kind of eerie, Felix, real quick before you ask me the question. Just going back the past few weeks, looking at a lot of his interviews and matches and stuff, one of the interviews that he did that really just kind of hit me and just, got me a little choked up was the one he did for Real Sports on HBO. And he was very open and honest, as you'd expect Roddy Piper to be, and he was just telling about his life and his troubles and inside and outside of the wrestling business. And he was just like, he looked at the camera and said, I don't think I'll be around, I don't think I'll live till 65. And it's just like, oh, man, it just hit me like this guy is just, you could tell he had a brilliant mind for this business and a brilliant mind outside of business. You talk about, whether it's music or the movies or all the other stuff Roddy did, and it's like, man, the business is sorely going to miss having that type of thinker, missing from the industry, just somebody that doesn't just do what is the mainstream, somebody that can, quote unquote, think outside of the box, and that was Roddy Piper.
Absolutely. And the question I wanted to ask you, actually, you know what? I'm gonna set the scene for you. 1994. It was, I believe, leading into the King of the Ring. Actually, no. Let's go back to WrestleMania 10. Excuse me. You remember when Roddy was the special guest referee for the Bret Hart-Yokozuna match?
Yes.
And how Jerry Lawler was starting to badmouth him, and it obviously would lead into a match at the King of the Ring, which, let's be honest, both of them were really not too proud of. But my point is, the King's Court appeared on Monday Night Raw, leading into, of course, the King of the Ring. And the King actually said, I'm going to have Roddy Piper come out. And he announces him, and the crowd goes wild for a split second. And they see this skinny punk kid come out wearing a kilt, funny-looking hairdo, and imitating Roddy Piper. And it goes to the match at the King of the Ring, and what people don't realize is that this young man actually sides with Roddy. and they, King's not happy. Well, this young man actually, he reached out. He heard that we were doing a tribute to Piper, and he wanted to share his memories about him. For those who wondered what happened to the Roddy imitator from '94, let's take a listen. It should be interesting.
Well, to be perfectly honest, I mean, I don't know the business, or I didn't know the business back then the way I know it now. Sure. So I was kind of walking into this like, okay, is this guy going to kick my ass? Or, you know what I'm saying? Or, is he going to be cool and everything? Yeah, so first thing that happens is Shawn Michaels, who had just made his heel turn, sees me and decides he's going to start messing around with me. So, I'm here I am backstage. I'm waiting on Roddy, and here comes Shawn Michaels, and he comes running up to me. And he goes, "Hello, kid." He goes, "You know something? Roddy's looking for you." And he's pissed. Uh-oh. Good luck. And he runs off. And I'm like, oh, my God, I'm dead. I'm like, this guy is going to kill me. So then finally, Roddy comes in. I see him. I'm waiting over in the corner. Who runs up to Roddy? Shawn Michaels. Oh, God. And he taps Roddy on the shoulder, puts his arm around him, and then points to me. He's like, "Damn!" He's right there. And I'm like, uh-oh. So then Roddy comes up to me, big smile and everything. He goes, "Ah!" He goes, "There you are. How you doing there, kid?" He goes, "Great impersonation of me. What'd you do, some time in jail, huh?" And I was like, oh. And I was just like, hello. And so then, we started talking and everything. And, he was talking about the match and everything. And, but Roddy was very protective of the business back in the day. Sure. I mean, as he always was. I mean, he was very, very protective of the business. So basically, he was treating the whole thing, like, okay, this is what's going to happen. This is what might happen. He's like, something, kid. He goes, when Lawler sees you with me, he's not going to be too happy, man. And what's going to happen is, he's going to see you with me, and he's going to be pissed. So as soon as we do our little thing and we say what we got to say on the microphone, he goes, I want you to get out of the ring because he's going to come at you. So I'm scared to death. I'm like, oh, my God, I'm going to die tonight. I'm like, I am going to die. I'm not even going to see the pay-per-view, and, I get that to live with until I die, which will be soon. But, he was very protective of the business and everything, but, I was talking a funny little story. I was like, Roddy, you got to do me one favor. He's like, yeah, sure, champ. Anything you want, kid. What do you want? And I was like, at some point in the match, you got to give Lawler the eye poke. I go, you have. I said, you have to do it. You have to do it. I go, it's classic Piper. You got to do it for me, please. And I go, because if you don't, I will. Totally kidding around. Totally kidding around. And Roddy's sitting there, and he's chewing his bubble gum, and he goes, let's see. You want me to give him the eye poke? But if I can't, you want to? He goes, maybe that's an idea, kid. And maybe you should poke him in the eyes. And I was like, well, wait a second. I was like, I'm not going to poke him into the eyes unless you got him in like a full Nelson or something. He heard that, and then all of a sudden, that was incorporated into the match.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And, once I walked up to Lawler, and, I'm like, I don't want to hurt this guy. So, I really didn't, doink him in the eyes, but, I just kind of grazed him a little bit. But, it was just like, it was an amazing moment, and, you know, that's one of those moments in life that you cannot put a price tag on.
No, you cannot. Priceless moment, because that kid got to do something that really none of us fans would ever get a chance to do, because here's the thing. He actually took part in a contest, and he was telling me about this. We talked for such a long time, and we had to kind of narrow it down a little bit. And Pat, if you're listening, I hope you enjoyed that, man, because I enjoyed talking to you. But he was telling me that, do you remember back when Macho Man was getting back into the ring to face Crush at WrestleMania? So Todd Pettengill was looking for a co-host. And he made this contest when they were doing WWE Mania, or I should say WWF Mania. They won't bleep me on my show. And they had these people sending in videotapes, and I guess they were doing impressions of WWE superstars. And Pat was saying, you know, I was watching these guys, and let's be honest, they suck. So he sent, you know, at the request of his friend, he sent in a few impressions that he did, and the one that caught their eye was the one of Roddy. He was spot on. You know, I mean, even I was pretty impressed when I seen it, and I'm like, you know, I can remember this. It's 20 years ago. Come on now, I can remember it, and I think you can too. When he came out and he was talking about Hell Comes to Frogtown, well, he said he's going to make a sequel called Hell Comes to Dogtown or something like that. And then getting out there for the King of the Ring, and yeah, I was watching that. Actually, I posted the video on my Facebook page, reliving that moment. I'm like, good grief, such an incredible moment. But Pat was an incredible guy, and he loved Roddy so much. He loved him so much. He actually got to meet him a few months back again. And he remembered. Roddy never forgot him. He never forgot him. And his memory is a little rusty, but he remembers for the most part. He always treated you like you were his best friend. That one I can vouch for myself, because he did the same for me. But I thought that was an interesting interaction. And for those who wonder whatever happened to that Roddy impersonator, we may just have him come on the show, on the future show. Stay tuned for that. We can definitely hear more about his story.
Definitely. That was a very cool story. And you can even hear, man, even today, he still got that Piper impression down, man. For a second, if you close your eyes, it's like, man, it's like we're talking to the Hot Rod tonight.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they're just, you know, to narrow it down to so many moments, I don't know if you can do that. I don't know if you can narrow it down. If you had to narrow down the top 10, good grief, I don't think we could. There's so many moments, and a lot of times it's just him on the stick, just talking. And not so much his wrestling matches. I mean, those were incredible, too. You think about it, you know, the 92 Royal Rumble, winning the Intercontinental title leading into WrestleMania, arguably one of Roddy's best matches ever, and people still talk about that match to this day. An incredible match between him and Bret Hart. But I wanted to play
the thing about Roddy, though, like you're mentioning, I was just going to say that Bret match is definitely one of my favorites, maybe my favorite Piper match ever. But the thing I liked about Roddy was that his style fit his character. Like, he wasn't going out there doing 50 holds. He wasn't, you know, Dean Malenko or anybody like that in the ring. But the way he talked with that rough swagger, that bravado, like you could tell this is a dude from the streets, and he was going to get in there and rough you up. That's the way that he wrestled. And one of the great clips I saw on YouTube last week was a compilation of Roddy's famous eye pokes, and it was just like, you know, he was like the Randy Orton of the 80s, because that eye poke came out of nowhere.
That is an interesting way to look at that, for sure. And a good comparison, actually. And, you know, if you're going to wear a kilt in the 1970s, you better be tough. Oh yeah. And he was not afraid. He was fearless. And I've got some more clips they're not very long ones, but a lot of them were just clips of classic moments, words, phrases, things he said. You know, I played the WWE tribute at the beginning of the show, which was a nice one. You know, don't take life for granted, because you never know how much time you have left. I think those are very, and I really, like I said in the beginning, I really believe Roddy lived it to its fullest, and he's the kind of guy that really, when you hear that expression, been there, done that, suits him to the T, and then some. But let's take you back. I want to take you back and see if you remember this one. off of a Piper's Pit. I won't tell you too much, but I want to see if you remember it. Take a listen, guys.
In a moment, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take you to Associate Publisher Robert DeBoard with big news concerning what was Victory Magazine with a new change and a new guest. So let's go now to Robert DeBoard and his very special guest.
Thank you very much. Welcome once again to Victory Corner. Tonight I have two special announcements I'm very pleased to make. Victory Magazine, which is the only sanctioned publication of the World Wrestling Federation, is changing its name. This decision best reflects the magazine's purpose as the only sanctioned body, the World Wrestling Federation. Its new title, the new title of the magazine, changing from Victory Magazine to the World Wrestling Federation magazine. The other important announcement is a new article that will be regularly appearing in the magazine. The new article will be Piper's Pit, and with me tonight is Roddy Piper, who is the author of the new article, and I'm delighted to have him with me this evening. Roddy?
Thank you. Let me have this for a second here. I am the originator of Piper's Pit, and I'd like to explain why, especially to you. You have been doing a tremendous job, and with a few flaws, and I'm trying to be political when I say this, but when you are interviewing some of the people that come out, possibly they intimidate you, but with them, the questions, the way it's kind of how can I say that? You're being kind of stupid. No, you wait a minute. This is my show now. You wait a minute. You just wait a minute. I'll give you an example. I see Ivan Putski up there in the ring singing some kind of Polish song. I would rather listen to Lassie Barth than Ivan Putski sing up here. He comes back here, and you're like a geek. You sit there, and you say, Ivan, you're such a wonderful man. You got Tony Atlas, and you get Rocky Johnson out here, and they're sitting here flexing, pretending they're wonderful. They're going to the gym, and they're telling you how great they are, and you sometimes don't have the guts enough to say to them what really is happening. Hulk Hogan is coming out here. He's got a home. No, wait a second.
According to this magazine,
I'll tell you what I'll bring to this magazine. This is the heat of seat right there. What I'm telling you is this. I will not pull no punches. This is Piper's Corner. Let me tell you something. I will ask questions you don't have guts enough to. I will ask questions only I got guts enough to. It's as simple as this. When RP talks, brother, people listen. That's all I got to say.
You better believe it. When RP talks, people listen. You remember that Piper's Pit?
Oh, man. Piper's Pit to me was just such a great segment, such a great idea, and you can talk about any of these shows that you have now, with these shows within a show, whether it's Ms. TV or the Cutting Edge highlight reel, like they all pale in comparison to Piper's Pit. So many great moments, whether it was the Robert, was it Morton Downey Jr.? The Morton Downey moment with the fire extinguisher, or, of course, the famous Jimmy Snuka with the coconut moment. The other thing I got from that clip, Brother Felix, that reminds me of the time when we talked to Hector Guerrero, was just how great Roddy Piper was at a master of, being the heel that could make racial statements and just he knew how to just walk the line and walk up to the line. Like some of those early feuds he had with the Guerrero family, and he was just saying the most crazy things about the Latino people, and it's like, oh man, you didn't take it as, oh, Roddy hates Mexicans, but you took it as, oh man, I really hope the Guerreros can beat him down, and he was just such a master of making you hate him, knowing the art of being a heel, and also something that I think is not really talked about is that Roddy Piper gave you satisfaction as a fan, which a lot of times we don't get, and I'm thinking in my mind of the Triple H Booker T feud, when Triple H was saying all these racist stuff and prejudice stuff, but at the end of the feud, he beats Booker T, and it's like that doesn't seem right. But Roddy Piper, whether it was with Hulk Hogan or with Mr. T or the Guerreros, like, he would talk all this trash and it would get you all riled up and get your blood boiling, but at the end of the day, he knew how to give you the satisfying conclusion to the story. And just because Roddy got beat, it didn't make you think any less of him. And that's something I wish guys like Triple H understood. You know, just because you lose doesn't mean that you lose. You know, you can lose a match and still be a great heel, a great villain, and that's something that Roddy knew 100%.
I pity the fool that didn't know that.
Oh, that's a whole other show right there, talking about Roddy Piper and Mr. T, because that was such a big deal for the mainstream. You know, you talk about being on MTV and the way that, you know, the whole deal with Cyndi Lauper and just how much that put the WWF into the mainstream. Like, you know, a lot of people give credit to Hogan for, you know, being the guy that brought wrestling to the mainstream, but it's like, man, Hogan needed a villain. Like, he wouldn't have been able to do it without Roddy Piper.
Amen. And I'm going to jump into a couple more promos here as we got, because, you know, he was just so magical on the stick that you just, oh, gosh, I wish I had them all. I really did, but like you said, there were so many different topics that would veer off into a different conversation. I just don't think 2 hours is enough. And I was even thinking to myself, I said, you know, this is such a huge thing that we want to do, and we want to make it as special as possible. Is 2 hours enough? I even contemplated making it a two-parter. We'll see about that. But at the same time, good grief. I don't know, even when we had Dusty, you know, or any of the other tributes, we tried so hard to squeeze it into 2 hours. And it's even still, I wonder, was that really enough to pay them the true respects that we thought we could pay them? For the most part, I feel like we did okay. And I think tonight is going to be no exception. But I want to go into another classic Piper clip. And you're all about the history, and I'm going to quiz you about these each time you hear them. And I want to see what comes to mind when you remember this, listening to this. So pay attention, Nate.
All right.
Back in a moment, guys.
I'm not going to be my navel. Okay.
Let's a little silence here.
Okay, quiet.
Watch this now. And that is a genuine beer. I just checked it just now.
Whoa! All right. Come here. Come here. I want you to see the glass in my hand, and you listen to me, sheep herders. You listen to me. This would knock just any normal man down, sheep herders. But I want you to just think about one thing. Getting this title in the cage is going to make $45,000 difference in my annual earnings, brother. This is the biggest match of my life, and I'm going to do it with my partner, and you listen to me. There's an old saying, sheep herders, you think we're just getting started? Saddle the ponies. Listen to me, brother. Saddle your pony, you bet. Sheep herders, you're in for a treat. It is showdown time. And showdown time, you bet. And we ain't even saddled our ponies yet.
Put him in a cage, or we'll put him to sleep forever.
His battle with the sheep herders. My goodness. And you know what's funny is that I think Luke was even talking about that. I think he mentioned that on one of his podcasts that Roddy did with Luke. And yeah, they're as Luke put it, they're mates from years back, way back. Because I think they wrestled even in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. I know Roddy had gotten in at such a young age, and he was a young man, so it had to be the early 70s.
Yep.
But nonetheless, what do you remember most about that promo, man?
Just, man, you could tell, just in these short clips, the command of the English language, like with, like just it's small stuff with Roddy. It's like the subtle stuff that separates a good promo from a great promo. Like, you know, anybody could say, "Hey, I want that money so I can put it in the bank," but Roddy's like, "I want that money so I can put it in an annual annuity." Like just the phrases that he comes up with, man. It's like you could tell this guy was. Not only was he a good wrestler, not only was he a great talker, but he had such a mind for the business and a mind for his character that, you know, it's man, I wish that there was a lot less ego in this industry, because I think that, you know, we talk about how great Paul Heyman is, and we talk about how great, you know, some of these other minds are in the business. Jim Cornette comes to mind. Like, if there was much less ego in wrestling, like, could you imagine Vince McMahon saying, you know what, we need somebody to help us write these shows, to give them a little different twist. Let's call Roddy up. You know, that I think if Roddy Piper, if Roddy had wanted to, because I don't know if that was something that Roddy would have been interested in, but if Roddy Piper was one of the creative forces on Raw for the past 10 years, imagine how different that program could have been.
Well, you know, I think the thing with that is that Vince fears the fact that Roddy is 100% real. He don't sugarcoat it. He hated writers, and those shoots that he did with Vince Russo and Kevin Eck that he did on his last Piper spit up north, or northeast, excuse me. He always believed it was about speaking from the heart, and it's just like we've said many times. When it comes to cutting a promo, either you got it or you don't. And Roddy had it, and then some, because we have a whole bunch of clips of his infamous words and sayings that I don't even know where to begin. We can just continue saying, you know, what we thought about them, what we remember most. But there's so many of them, and I'm just going to keep the ball rolling here. We got a few more clips, and we've got a surprise. I've got a surprise for Nate at the end of the show. And if there's time, we'll definitely take some calls from fans who are listening in. If you guys want to call in and share your favorite Roddy moment, be respectful is all I'm going to tell you. Be respectful, and I will put you through, and you can speak your mind. That being said, on to some more classic Piper moments.
A lot of things have gone under the bridge between you and I, huh, Portland? Seattle, Tacoma. I remember before, a long time ago, when I first came to Portland, Oregon. Matter of fact, I remember when I was a kid having a test on mathematics. And the test came back, and I got a 0 on it because I really didn't understand the school. The only reason I didn't go to college, what kept me from college was high school. As the teacher says to me, he says, Roddy, he says, 0, he says, that seems to be your life story. Yeah. I remember first coming to Portland, Oregon, young brash kid, walking in with his bagpipes. All kinds of folks looking at me and me looking right back at him, 21 years old, and spitting right back. We didn't like each other much then. I remember a lot of things under the water there. Remember a good friend of ours, Frank Bonneville. God bless him. Remember up there, and we used to laugh a lot. Joel Cox, little poster boy there for Easter Seals. Lonnie Main, another good friend. I mean, we've been through some stuff together, you know. It's not like the promotion has taken a World Heavyweight Championship match and just threw 2 fighters together, you see, because this is something I've been working at for a long time, Jack. I remember losing to Buddy Rose. I remember going home feeling so bad, beating myself with my canary for a dig and a half. Feeling sorry for myself, you know. Ain't no sympathy, man. Remember lots of stuff. I remember remember those two cute little ladies that used to sit at ringside there. Every TV you'd see them, they're about 78 years old, and God bless them, every time I was there, they'd bring me all kinds of chocolate. Like I needed chocolates, right? Now I got a chance for World Heavyweight Champion. You know, Lonnie Main wanted that a lot in Portland, Oregon. He never got a chance. A lot of people in Portland have got shafted. And finally, Don Owens, the promoter there, who's a very fair man, has got together and finally gives someone a break. Ric Flair comes around and says all kinds of stuff. You see, I am now the United States Heavyweight Champion, and I had to become the #1 contender before I could get a match with Ric Flair. And now, all of a sudden, in the Northwest, I got me a fight for the World Heavyweight Championship with Ric Flair. This is something I've been working for a long time. I ain't asked no favors from nobody. I've been down and kicked around. I remember me and Killer Brooks running around, big spiked dog collars. We beat some people half to death. Got beat half to death sometimes. It didn't stop, you see. This is something that I've worked for a long time. Ric Flair, I see him wandering around. Long blonde hair, and His style is, he's got a nice bleached blonde on each arm. They're walking around, look like they got two midgets wearing dunce caps and sweaters. They're walking around like big shot. You see, I still drives me a 52 Ford pickup truck. Oh, yeah, I got a Cadillac, but it's diesel. I got me a wife now, and I got me a little daughter. 7 pounds, 9 ounces. You see, Roddy Piper ain't changed a whole lot. And I'll still put my cigar in your face just for kickstart. I've worked long and hard. You see, when I first started, it was important for me to win, man, because I had to eat. Now for me to win is a necessity. It's something that I have to do now. And Roddy Piper's coming to town, Jack. And I'm coming for the world heavyweight champion in every place I can find him. And it turned out I'm coming to a place where I got me some friends. And I have to come in, mister, and I have to smoking. And Ric Flair, you better look all around, Jack. Because every place you look, you're going to see RP. And I'm coming to kick some, Jack.
We're going to keep this momentum going here real quick and go into another classic Roddy clip from NWA in Mid-Atlantic.
Fans here ringside, Roddy Piper. Roddy, last week you became some type of hero.
So you wait a second. Some kind of hero? I'll tell you that's a bunch of baloney. There ain't no kind of hero in me, mister. You see, I don't wash behind my ears. I still pull my women by the hair, brother. I do what I want to. I ain't got no note from mom. I ain't no kind of hero for nobody at no time, mister. But I'll tell you one thing. When I see some little red-headed rooster-looking sucker come up here and try to have something to me, trying to tell me he's going to make me a star. Well, brother, a star I are already. You call yourself the House of Humperdinck. The house, what's that? What's that? Leathers, little midgets and leathers, the House of Humperdinck? You get some guy out there, Leroy Brown, comes, dyes his beard, a nice blonde, puts a nice earring in his ear, very becoming. Becoming an idiot is what you're doing, you fool. You're down there with the House of Humperdinck. You Ivan Koloff, the great Russian bear. People are turning on me. You see, I ain't never had no friends in my whole life. I'm like the James Dean of wrestling. Nobody likes me, and I don't care. That's the problem, you see, mister. Humperdinck, you want to come out and do something about it? You want to? Oh, yes, Gene Anderson. Gene Anderson, the mastermind of them all, right? He's got all his stuff together, doesn't he, right?
Fans, that's it at ringside, and we're going to be back. We'll have more right after we take time out for this message.
Two classic moments there. Whether when you just hear him talking, and then when you hear him cut a promo, he never looked at himself as a hero. I mean, in fact, he mentioned it many times on this podcast. Fans they voted him wrestling's greatest villain, and I couldn't agree more. And he always made sure you plugged in. You can get my villain T-shirts on RowdyPiper.com, and I plan to. And what's really cool, and I think I mentioned this last week on the show, is that there's a Rocket Fizz here in my hometown. And they got some all-out bubblegum soda, and I'll tell you this much, I would be willing to take a cheat day, one day, and drink me some all-out bubblegum soda. I'll drink it in honor of Roddy.
Well, speaking on that, Felix, I know you spoke with the representative for Stand for the Silent earlier. Did you guys talk about the T-shirt?
I'm sorry, refresh my memory because we talked about a few things. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, well they've got a Roddy Piper T-shirt with the proceeds going to the charity, and it is awesome.
Okay.
It's like the old Bubblicious. Yeah, it's like the old Bubblicious logo with Roddy Piper, and it's like now with the new juicy, eye-opening flavor, chew bubblegum and kick ass with tough bubblegum.
No, I forgot to mention that. We talked about a lot of things. As I said, when I talked to these people, these gentlemen over the weekend, it was a conversation that you just kept going and kept going. It felt like you wanted to hit on so many topics. And he mentioned that, he talked about the organization and how they got in contact with Roddy, and also that they were going to be attending the special memorial that they're going to do at the Comedy Store here in California. in honor of Roddy as a private ceremony for Roddy's comedy friends and celebrity friends, and which I think is cool too. And I also want to bring him back on the show, whether it be a pre-recorded segment just for him or whatever the case may be, because that organization is something that people need to be aware of. And because it's a sad truth nowadays. Children, whether it be cyberbullying or even bullying, in real life bullying, excuse me. And that was one thing that Roddy would not stand for, is bullying. Oh, thank you, Nate. And the reason I say thank you is because obviously he sent me the link for the new T-shirt for Hot Rod, and
it is cool.
Oh, okay. I didn't even see that. I didn't realize that they still had that. I think I may have to buy that one too. And they make fun of me for wearing it.
It's only $11.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, only $11. So I think it's like $12 if you need one of the bigger sizes plus shipping and handling. But yeah, it's a very cool shirt.
All right.
Good way to rep Roddy Piper and also give some money to a charity that he definitely had a heart for.
Okay. Thank you for bringing that up, man. I didn't even notice that. All right. I like that. And yeah, we'll definitely look to be bringing these guests back on for sure. But out of these promos, they're going to keep coming because we've got a few, and they're a few minutes. So that's why I said, be patient, guys. We're going to get to everybody, and we're just letting in FYI, guys. We'll be doing our SummerSlam breakdown, SummerSlam showdown, SummerSlam SmackDown. I got to come up with a catchy name for next week. But leading into SummerSlam, we'll be talking about it next week, as well as Monday Night Raw. Tonight's a special night for Hot Rod. So we'll be back to normal, talking about normal things in the world of professional wrestling next week. In the meantime, continuing on with the show, we've got more classic Hot Rod moments, and we will keep the show rolling, and hopefully you guys are enjoying this ride so far. Here we go.
All right, fans, you have just seen another incident continuing here in the World Wrestling Federation. Again, the Iron Sheik asserting himself, perhaps some would say sticking his nose in where it does not belong. But as far as Sergeant Slaughter is concerned, perhaps this is only the tip of the iceberg. The ongoing feud, the bitter animosity, still, to this day, continues between Sergeant Slaughter and the Iron Sheik. Back to business at the Boston Garden. The World Wrestling Federation back in town on Saturday night, October the 6th on that card. Speaking of Sergeant Slaughter, Slaughter and his mystery partner, he has really got my curiosity up. Nonetheless, that combination will be going against Ivan Volkov and the Iron Sheik, and of course it adds even more after what we have just seen. Tito Santana with the title defense, Intercontinental Championship on the line. Come on in, Roddy Piper. Make yourself to home here on my television program. Tito Santana with the title defense against Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. Also, a couple of great lady wrestlers are going to be on the card. What in the world are you trying to prove, Roddy Piper?
I don't have to prove nothing. I have proven everything I have ever needed to prove. That's why I'm in the Boston Gardens. The legend killer himself has got Hulkamania. Hulkamania. They say Hulkamania's running wild. You know what Hulkamania is. You know what Hulkamania is? Hulkamania is three winos in a parking lot, man.
You know,
you're Hulkamania.
Just a minute here.
You know what Hulkamania is? They don't know how strong you are. 24-inch pythons. You want snakes? You want snakes?
Roddy, you seem to be awfully laid back considering the position that you're in.
Did you see me with Andre the Giant last time in the Boston Garden? I beat a giant! You see Jimmy Snuka around no more, don't you, huh? He's hung. I wonder if Hulk's hung, huh? You think he's ever been hung? I'm the kind of guy that can hang people. I am the legend killer. You say you're going to take me and throw me out there in front of all them people in the Boston Garden. You know what I will do? I will let them throw me out there. And then I will beat everybody up in my building on my way back to see the Hulk. Huh? You know what happens to the Hulk? You ever seen the cartoon? All of a sudden when he's finished, he comes back to just a puny little fella with all kinds of torn clothes. Is that what you want to be? You see, that's what happens when the Hulk's finished. He turns puny. Them pythons shrink. You want snakes? You want to be called a snake, huh? Me, I'll be Piper the Viper, huh? What you're coming up against is something you have never, ever seen before. I see you up here sweating. I don't blame you. From now on, brother, after the garden, when you say Roddy Piper, you'll smile and sweat.
Roddy Piper challenging Hulk Hogan for the heavyweight title of the world Saturday, October the 6th at the Boston Garden.
And we'll keep this party going as we continue on with another classic Hot Rod promo. Hope you guys are enjoying the show so far. Here we go.
The very controversial host of Piper's Pit, Roddy Piper. Mr. Piper, I would stick around, but you're going to have to excuse me. I have to go to the men's room. I'll be right back. Thank you.
Oh, going home? Oh, my goodness, that's fine. Cow Palace. You can go to the men's room in the Cow Palace. That's a wonderful name in San Francisco because the Cow Palace is someplace that I would be proud to call my home. Cow Palace is someplace that I'd be proud to bring my gal. Because obviously if you live in San Francisco and you are going out with gals, obviously they belong in the Cow Palace. I saw one, the only thing she was missing was antlers. She would have been in season, Jack, man. I saw her coming up to me, asking me for a date. I says, man, I'm Hot Rod. Are you kidding me? He said, yeah, but aren't you the one that's going to fight Mr. Wonderful? I says, yeah, I'm going to fight Mr. Blunderful. He says, but aren't you the one that's going to fight him with all them wrestlers around the ring? I says, yeah, that's me. He says, don't you know what he's thinking? Of course. Yeah, I know what he's thinking. Absolutely nothing, man. When he's in a room alone, he is all alone. You see, you forget, I rode with him. I know what an idiot this guy is. I know his moves. Oh, yes, he's tough. I know he's tough. You think I ain't, man? I've been around. You know that. I've been there before. He's tough enough to go and bench press 500 pounds. Who really cares, man, huh? Your idea here of a wrestling match here, you got 12 wrestlers around the ring. You got dancing midgets and leathers. You got everything that you've ever wanted in a match. You know why I signed this? Incidentally, it didn't take me 2 months to sign this match. No. It didn't take me 2 months to make up my mind, brother. No. I said, you want me to fight somebody? I'll fight anybody. Who do you want? Just let me fight him. Orndorff says, well, I'm going to take my time. It's going to take me about 2 months, and I'm going to go right now and go to the bathroom and think about it, and now I'm back. Right there. It's your idea of Orndorff's father. You see, that's going to happen after you fight me. There's going to be nothing left of you except for old and bald and ugly. You ain't going to be no Hot Rod. You're just going to be somebody that can't keep his bladder empty.
Thank you very much, Roddy Piper. Back in the Bay Area at the Cow Palace Thursday night, October the 10th. Don't you dare.
And the final clip of the evening, I wish I had more clips, and I know my pal Elio sent me some, but some unfortunately weren't able to upload it for whatever reason. I love them computer technical difficulties, but the last clip, and probably his most famous catchphrase that will probably be used forever from the movie They Live.
Near the entrance. Has a shotgun. White male, 30s, long hair.
Mama don't like tattletales.
Wearing sunglasses.
Mama don't like tattletales. Love it. But what do you think, man? We had quite a few there. I wanted to bring in more. For some reason, they wouldn't come up. And that one he did with Andre the Giant. You do not throw rocks at a guy who's got a machine gun. You know, he'd come up with these things. Oh my goodness! And then one thing, I don't know if you remember from his podcast, and I hear this almost every time he went on. Hilarious. The guests would come on, and they'd ask, "So how you doing, Hot Rod? How you doing, Roddy?" "Oh, I'm a box of fluffy ducks." You know, it was so silly. I just didn't. I was like, "What the hell does that mean?" Yeah.
Oh man,
good stuff.
Yeah,
there's so much good stuff.
Such a great communicator, I think, would be the best encapsulation of Roddy Piper. Whether you're talking about through his matches in the ring, through his promos, through his movies, through his TV work, like he knew how to connect with an audience. He knew how to communicate emotions to an audience. And They Live, one of the great classic movies of the 80s, and it still holds up today. Roddy Piper and Keith David certainly did a great job with that one. That, to me, is probably one of the things that I'll always remember the most about Piper. I think, in terms of the big moments, it's They Live, it's hitting Jimmy Snuka with a coconut, it's the tag match at WrestleMania, and it's when he showed up in WCW, and he had the reality check gimmick, and he was like, the reason people liked you so much, Hulk Hogan, is because they hated me even more. And it's like, man, this guy was just so good, and it's just a shame that we won't have any new moments of Roddy Piper, but we've got a lot of classic old moments to go back and relive.
Sure, definitely. And that's one of the things I remember too is, and I think I said this on the last week's show when we were talking about Hot Rod. Hogan was Superman, but Roddy was definitely Lex Luthor. Those two were so good together. Hogan wouldn't have been as good as he was without Roddy. And that's just my personal opinion. You can agree to disagree. Some fans won't agree with that, but that's okay. I'm a fan, and I'm entitled to my opinion. And
I don't even think you can disagree with that.
That whole thing leading up with the Cindy Lauper. I don't know where I got that name. Hello. But Cindy Lauper kicking her, and then hitting Captain Lou over the head with the gold record. And it's funny, as I remember that Piper's Pit when Cindy and was it Leyland? No, it was Wendy Richter. Excuse me. They came back on the Raw just a couple of years ago, and Heath Slater decided to involve himself in that and he suffered the consequences. But one of those clips that I played, I don't know if you heard it, but not many people know this. Piper actually came up with a nickname for himself before Randy Orton and calling himself the Legend Killer. Do you remember that promo?
Yep.
So there you go, folks. A little history lesson there. Roddy Piper was the original master of the pipe bomb, but he was also the original Legend Killer. So keep that in mind there. And as we continue on through the show, to name some of Hot Rod's most infamous rivalries, if I could come up with just a couple, obviously we just talked about one with Hogan. The 80s and what McMahon was trying to do revolutionized the entertainment business to a new level. And bringing in the celebrities and so forth. Roddy, his beef with Hogan, the war to settle the score, bringing in Mr. T, WrestleMania 1 main event set in stone right there. You think about that when you think about the matches that he had with Ric Flair. And it didn't matter how much these guys were friends. Anytime they got in the ring, it was all business. And they worked so well together. And if I had to think about somebody else, it would be a toss-up between Bret Hart and... You know what? I'll put in an alternate choice only because he was a former guest and he had such a amount of respect for Hot Rod, and that was the Mountie, Jacques Rougeau. That infamous match that they had at the Royal Rumble, and just his way of talking to people. Most may not always remember some of his matches or his feuds. A lot of people are going to remember the Piper's Pit and the classic, the one with the guy. Oh gosh, what was his name? He's Frankie Lane. I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and dude, come on, that was it. You were just walked into that one. Hot Rod was not going to be nice about that one. Really,
just when you think you got all the answers, I changed the questions.
There you go. Another classic right there. And if I were to pose that question to you, Nate, some of his classic rivalries, Ric Flair, Hogan, Bret Hart, Mountie. I know there were so many, even Ravishing Rick. What were some of your most infamous, not infamous, but most memorable feuds that Hot Rod had?
I think that obviously you got to go with the Hogan feud because that was the one that really brought wrestling into the mainstream. And you're right, without Piper, I don't think we get the same Hogan that we've gotten over the years. He still had great rivalries with people like Savage and Flair and even, someone like Sting, but you don't get to those matches unless you have that big explosion in the 80s, and half of that was Roddy Piper. So I think Hogan and Piper is number one. I put Flair and Piper second because they had great matches over a number of years, back to the Mid-Atlantic days and then, to WCW in the 90s. And they were always great on the microphone. So that'd be number two. And number three, Felix, and I respect your choice with the Mountie and with Bret. Those are both great rivalries. But I'm going to go with another guest that we've had on Pipebomb Radio, and that is Hector Guerrero and the Guerrero family, because it wasn't just Roddy versus Hector. It was Roddy versus the whole family. He had beef with Chavo and Mondo, and it was like this dude was just out to get the Guerreros, and it was such a great feud that I didn't see it when I was growing up. I was a little too young, but going back with the with the internet now, you can check out some of these classic matches, classic rivalries. And it's just like, man, the amount of hatred that Roddy was able to stir up with these fans out there on the West Coast, saying all this bad stuff about the Guerrero family. It was like, man, you wanted to see Hector or Mondo or Chavo, get their hands on Roddy Piper and shut his mouth.
And there was another one that a guest just sent me to, a listener sent me to. How could we forget? Without a doubt, one of the most brutal matches in wrestling history, that dog collar match with him and Valentine.
Greg Valentine.
Oh, my goodness. That one, and I think he never recovered from that one. Obviously, he still had the 50% hearing loss in his ear after the hell he got knocked out of him with that chain. And, if you want to see a classic, brutal, hardcore match, that has to be one of the best ones to watch. And there's so many people that would coin the phrase they were hardcore before hardcore was cool. Well, Roddy can put himself up there as one of the few that were the originators of that term, hardcore.
Yeah. And that was hardcore that made sense, Felix. It was hardcore that was not just a gimmick. It wasn't just something that was there because it's what we do now. It was the culmination of a bitter rivalry, and it made sense for the dog collar match. And it was a match that they took all around the country and made money with. Whereas nowadays, and ever since the 90s, we've got this idea of hardcore, and you got these folks out here on the independent scene hitting each other with light bulbs and going through thumbtacks and tables and all this. And it's like, no, that's not what hardcore was about. You want to know about hardcore? Go back and watch your Mick Foley. Go back and watch your Terry Funk. Go back and watch Roddy Piper and see that hardcore is not just about the blood and the gimmicks. It's about telling a story. And if you go back and watch that match at Starrcade with Piper and Valentine, it wasn't just hardcore to be hardcore. They were telling a story.
Yes, sir. And you can even put that in that category. You can put the Sheep Herders in that category.
Yeah.
They were hardcore way back when. But then again, we always...
Sheep Herders, Dusty, man. Dusty Rhodes, too.
Yeah. There's so many names you can put in there, too. Coming up with the term hardcore. But,
Jimmy Valiant from last week.
Oh, mercy.
The Valiant brothers.
You know that there are so many things that you so many people, and you know I should have recorded. For those who didn't hear last week's show, obviously we had the one and only the Boogie Woogie Man, woo mercy daddy, Jimmy Valiant on the show last week, and he shared some moments, he shared some memories of Hot Rod too, and he believed that even back then this kid had it. You know, he was so far ahead of his time, and Ric Flair put it best: Jim Carrey ain't got nothing on Hot Rod. And there are three people in the wrestling business you don't want to go toe-to-toe with when it comes to those one-liners, the quick-witted ones, the ones that, when it comes to insulting, that being Roddy Piper, Bobby Heenan, and Double A. You don't want to do that because you will lose. And, you know, there is I want to pull aside for just a split second. We're going to come back on here. I have a surprise and the commercial break we're going to do real quick after the surprise. Or after the commercial break, I have a surprise afterwards. We're going to take a quick commercial break here, and you're going to listen to this commercial that Roddy did for Stand for the Silent. Back in a moment, guys.
2010, after 2 years of constant bullying, 11-year-old Ty Smalley took his own life. In the past 7 years, more than 55,000 children have taken their own lives due to bullying. That's 22 youth suicides every day. Stand for the Silent is a grassroots organization that educates people about the harsh reality of bullying and the devastation it causes, and they need your help. Visit standforthesilent.org to learn how you can get involved and help us to save lives.
I stand for the silent. I stand for the silent.
I stand for the silent.
I stand for the silent.
I stand for the silent. I stand for the silent.
I stand for the silent.
I stand for the silent.
I stand for the silent.
I stand for the silent.
I'm Roddy Piper, and we stand for the silent.
Okay, and the little surprise that I have, I want to do because it happens to fall on a celebration, so why not throw this in there? And this is from all of us, mate, so I hope you enjoy, pal.
Oh man.
Yes, you can thank Elio for that one, but we had to include it in there somewhere. As I posted on Facebook, for those who don't know, it is our very own Nate Milton's birthday today, and I had to throw in a little happy birthday wish. Now I ain't got no damn voice to be singing, and neither does Elio. Although he did say he would have played a little tune on his piano for you, but nonetheless, we just want to let you know you're appreciated, sir. And
thank you, brother.
Hope you enjoyed.
Thank you, brother. You know, and shout out to you, Elio. Appreciate that, man. And yes, I'm feeling good. Had a good time today, and right now, you know, I'm feeling like a box of fluffy ducks, if you will, Felix.
I like how you included that with "if you will." Yeah, but we're gonna keep this momentum going in here, guys, and I'm gonna definitely, for this time, to remember Hot Rod, I'm gonna open up the phone lines. And if you guys want to call in and speak about a memory of Hot Rod that meant most to you, I hope you do. Please call in. Area code 347-202-0399. Call in, share a thought about Hot Rod, wish Nate a happy birthday, wish the Hulkster a happy birthday, brother. Anyways, it is a celebration. It is going to be about Hot Rod, but you know what? Hot Rod loved people. He loved people. Just don't get on his bad side, because then God help you. But going to open up the phone lines to the first caller to come up here who's patiently been waiting, listening into the show, and listening to all the clips and all of our shenanigans on the show. So, area code 718, you're on with Felix and Nate.
Hey, guys. How you doing? Happy birthday, Nate.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right. Oh, man. Roddy Piper had so many. I'll talk about ones you guys didn't mention on the show. I remember even before the Greg Valentine dog collar match, he had some promos. You can go on YouTube. He had some promos where when he first turned good on Georgia Championship Wrestling after saving Golden Soley, he had a brief feud with Mad Dog Buzz Sawyer, and Paul Ellering was his manager. Oh man, when he used to wear the chain and the dog collar, they show him in a pickup truck. And he's hanging himself with the chain. It was one of those crazy moments where you could see where it's like the booking tells him this is your opponent tonight, and he absolutely studies the person and just goes right into him, which is the one thing I liked about Roddy. He always just dived into him.
Absolutely.
Even though,
he meshed well with just about anybody he got in the ring with.
Yeah, he always studied the person. Even the funny moments, which I'm surprised he still got out of the ring, was the time they tried to make him apologize to the Guerreros, and he was like he was going to play the Mexican national anthem on the bagpipes, and he ended up playing La Cucaracha.
Oh, I was going to mention that one too. Oh yes, yes.
How he got out of that building is unbelievable to me.
Man, that was, and I was talking with Felix earlier. That was probably one of the things I loved the most about Piper. Like, he was a master at pissing you off as a fan, and just getting your emotions riled up to the point where you were going to be in front of that TV, or you were going to be at the arena, or you were going to spend money on that pay-per-view to see him get his butt kicked. And when it came time for that big match, a lot of times Piper got his butt kicked, and I think that's a credit to him as a top guy that, he knew at the end of the day, the story is, the bad guy does all this stuff, and then the good guy eventually wins out. Whereas I think a lot of top guys nowadays, these heels, they're like, no, I don't care who you are. I'm Triple H or I'm whoever, and I'm going to win.
Yes, that's true, especially at WrestleMania. No one's, unless you're a WWE guy, you're not going to beat another WWE guy at WrestleMania. There's Triple H at WrestleMania. But you guys talk about They Live in Frogtown. You guys forget to mention Body Slam. Body Slam with him and Tonga Kid.
Oh, goodness. There you go.
That was a good one.
Right there.
That was even crazy.
I think that was the one with, was that Face from the A-Team on that one?
Yeah, that's Face from the A-Team. Tanya Roberts, Barbarian, Captain Lou. That was a funny one because it was like I think it was still during his heel time, if I'm not mistaken, that he did that one. I'm not sure if it was before or after Adrian Adonis.
I think it might have been. And I was looking up his IMDb over the weekend, and he did a recent movie, I guess, with a bunch of guys, the Pro Wrestlers versus Zombies movie.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That's one with Shane Douglas.
Year too.
Yeah, Shane Douglas, Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle's in it.
Yeah, but Piper brought so many, between Adrian, like I said, Buzz Sawyer, Dick Slater. Him and Bob Orton really had their hands together in the '80s. I still remember that one Piper's Pit where they had Big John Studd and Bundy, and Bundy and Studd always wanted to do a move like a body slam or a crush, and he wouldn't even do it. He would tell Ace to go do it. To take the body slam. Well, yeah, Piper was that one guy. How can you imagine a booking committee? Well, two things if you can imagine. But can you imagine a booking committee with him and Jake Roberts with the psychology they both have?
Ooh, man,
good stuff. Good stuff.
Like, that would have been amazing.
Yeah, and Piper was that Lex Luthor because remember Bobby Heenan's family wasn't stable yet, so But could you even imagine that even before Hulk Hogan, if he would have came in WWF at the time, but can you imagine if he came in like 2 years earlier and had a feud with Bob Backlund?
Oh man. And you know what? And granted, this is kind of looking back in hindsight, and obviously things turned out pretty well for Hogan and Piper. But imagine if, like you said, Roddy came in earlier and he was the guy that smashed Bob Backlund, and he had built up this heat for a year and a half, 2 years, whatever. And Hogan was the guy that had to come save us from Piper. Like as big as that feud was, it could have been even bigger.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was thinking. I mean, you scratch the Iron Sheik, you put Piper in, you have him with the bagpipes playing with the belt, coming out with the belt, coming out with Ace.
Oh man,
it would have been amazing. But Piper's the best. He'll be missed.
I appreciate you calling in, man. And it's funny, when I started saying we can open up the lines to share your memories of Hot Rod, the lines started blowing up. And that's just how much love people have for Roddy and his legacy. And if you want to hang tight, man, hang in there, listen to the rest of the show. We appreciate it, but we do appreciate you calling in.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys, and happy birthday again.
Thanks, man. You have a good night.
All right.
All right. Next caller is from area code 540. You're on with Felix and Nate.
Is it me, Felix?
Hi. Is this Terry?
Hey, Felix, this is Terry. How you doing?
Doing good, sir. How are you?
Fantastic, sir. As I've told you privately, you're an inspiration, losing all your weight. You're doing fantastic, and you're inspiring me, and appreciate it.
No problem. And did you have a Piper memory you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, I'm so thankful for Mid-Atlantic Clip was heaven on earth to me here, Uncle Bob Connell, and but I'm really thankful for YouTube, and for a while there you guys were stuck on WWF. I'm glad you started talking about Portland and all those places. I'm thankful for YouTube and VHS and DVDs. I think one memory was in the San Francisco area. He was against Moondog Maine. In his interviews, he took a beer bottle and crashed it over his forehead, and while he was doing the interview, the blood was trickling down his face. I mean, it's not many wrestlers that did that. Then he imitated Moondog Maine. He used to swallow live goldfish, and Roddy acted like he was going to, in the last minute he didn't do it. But he was always so entertaining. He was my second favorite of all time. I just wanted to get in and say what a great show. Roddy was one of the tops of all time, and I loved him. In fact, just wanted to say one more thing was that I liked him better when he was being cheered in the Mid-Atlantic area. I mean, he was a fantastic villain, yes, but I don't know. He seemed like he had a little bit even more charisma sometimes when he was cheered, and I'll cherish those days growing up in the Mid-Atlantic watching him. So, hey, that's all. I'll be listening to the rest of the show. You guys do a great job, and keep up with your great work, sir.
Appreciate it, Terry.
All right. Thank you.
Talk to you later, Felix.
All right. Bye-bye. And we'll keep this momentum going. We've got another caller, area code 905. You're on with Felix and Nate.
Hey, Felix.
Yeah, this is Elio 2 Ends Canella. What's up, man?
Well.
Hey, Nate, happy birthday.
Thank you, Elio. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Yeah, actually on the first call, when he was talking about Body Slam.
Yeah.
I actually have that on VHS somewhere.
That is definitely a collector's item for sure.
Oh, yeah.
VHS almost are non-existent these days.
I had it recorded when I was 16.
Oh man, that is classic. What's your favorite memory of Piper, brother Elio?
Well, actually, I liked the whole feud leading up to the WrestleMania 3 match with Adrian Adonis.
Ooh, that's a good one. That was a name that didn't get mentioned quite a bit throughout the show, and we should have, because he had such a classic feud with Adrian too.
I was also watching the clip on YouTube of when they had the flower shop and Piper's Pit side by side.
For some reason, and that's a shame, Elio, too, because you sent me that clip to upload it, and for some reason Blog Talk was being stupid again and wouldn't let me. There was like maybe two, possibly three clips, but I couldn't get up.
There was another clip that the first caller said about his promo on Buzz Sawyer. That was one of the ones I sent.
Yeah, I'm so disappointed too because I really wanted to play those.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
But yeah, some great feuds. Roddy's faced them all. He's beat them all. He's fought them all. He may not have won them all, but he came in there swinging and he went out swinging.
Yeah, and I was sitting here watching it, and I'm still trying to figure out what he was trying to say in the promos.
Well, Roddy had a great way of just talking. We heard through some of the promos Felix played. Like, Roddy had a way of sometimes saying stuff that you had no idea the words he was saying, but you understood perfectly what he meant and what he was going to do to his opponent.
Absolutely. Elio, I can't thank you enough for calling in, pal, and your help tonight with setting up the show. And I'm sorry, I wish I could have gotten all the clips on. I know that, but it's like we said in the beginning too, to be able to hit all aspects of I think we just lost Elio. If we hit all aspects of Roddy's career, 2 hours is not enough time.
We'd be here till 5 in the morning if we were gonna go cover his whole career.
But I appreciate you calling in, Elio. And I think we have another caller here.
All right.
And from area code 337, you're on with Felix and Nate. You got a Roddy Piper memory you'd like to share? Oh, I think we lost them too. All right, that's okay. No worries. Again, if you guys are looking to call in, definitely give us a call. Area code 337. Hello. 347-202-0399. The 337 just called in earlier. Sorry, folks. But to sum up a life of Roddy Piper is something that, very few people in life really get to do. They're either too afraid to try or too afraid to fail. And he lived it to its fullest. He always talked about this in all of his in his the documentary they did for him. And he never had a home. And that's why he cherished his family. I mean, he adored them. They were his everything. His wife Kitty, his son Colt, his daughter Ariel. I don't know all the name of his children. I only know the name of 3. I know he's got grandchildren as well. And growing up and just taking that, those first $25 Canadian, pause for a second for a giggle, anyways, and then just hopping on the road and never stopping. And the one thing that I wish we could have seen, the one match that I feel like it just needed to happen, had to happen, because it seemed like this person had faced everybody except this person. And I got to wonder, could there have been a little fear involved? I don't know. See, and I believe they still could have sold Piper versus McMahon. It had to happen. It had to happen. And I felt like we were going to have it happen maybe in 2008 when I think they were in Madison Square Garden. Do you remember that little and then, of course, when Roddy was in the WWE during the 2003 run. And it just seemed like they were hinting around a possibility of having McMahon against Piper. But it's cool. That was the one thing I feel like we just needed to have but never had the opportunity.
Yeah, and it's just when you look at the length and breadth of this man's career, going back to the 70s, the 80s, up through the 90s, and his WCW work, which I don't think gets enough credit, from 96 to I think about 2000, where he wasn't the same wrestler in the ring, obviously, because he's gotten a little older, but he still knew how to connect with a crowd. And then you come up to, I'd say, within the last 4 or 5 years with the WWE, one of my most stirring memories of Piper in terms of something that he's done recently was, I want to say 2010, maybe 2011, but it was the match where John Cena had to referee, when he was refereeing the match with Randy Orton for the world title. And Roddy Piper was just like, you know, you owe it to the WWF and the lineage and the history of this belt to call a fair match. And Piper was always great in that spot of coming back, and you give the man, you know, 5 or 10 minutes to get across how important this was, how much this meant in a historical context. And, you know, he was always spot on whenever he showed back up on one of those go-home Raws.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, no matter what, people could always count on Roddy knowing how to stir the pot. And there was one instance, and this is the one thing that they talked about. Now, I don't know if you actually caught the video, Nate, of the Piper's Pit they did for, I want to say it was MCW. And they
I've heard about it. I haven't seen the video yet.
Well, former WWE writer Kevin Eck went on with a guest, and they talked about that the Piper's Pit segment. I believe it had Jericho, Vicky Guerrero, and Dolph Ziggler. And I guess Piper was said to say a few things. And let's be honest, writers are not going to convince anybody, especially Piper, who is old school to the T, to say what they want him to say. Coin the phrase, just when they think they have all the answers, I change the question up. You know, he's going to tell you what he's going to say, and he's going to go with it. Well, that Piper's Pit got him in trouble because I guess he was supposed to get it under the control, and I guess that's when they parted ways with Piper again. But that's what I'm saying. When it comes to Vinnie Mac and Piper, I really believe, and he'll you know, Vinnie Mac will never be the one to admit this, never. But I believe maybe deep down, Vince feared it. Because Piper was such a crazy sadistic. Like, you know, you get on his bad side, heaven help you, because I don't know if anybody else could. That's just how intimidating he was.
Yeah, and I don't think it was just the craziness, Felix, and just how sadistic he could be, but I think it's also that Roddy Piper was a man that, you know, both inside and outside of the ring, he lived by a code. He lived by a man's got to do what a man's got to do type of ethics system. And Roddy Piper was not, you know, you might work, like Roddy Piper might work for you. You might sign Roddy Piper's check, but that does not mean you own Roddy Piper, because he was always going to be his own man regardless of who was his boss at the time.
No doubt about that. And I believe we actually have another caller. Looks like a familiar number, so we'll just make sure it's him. Hello, you're on with Felix and Nate. How you doing?
New Day Rocks. New Day Rocks. New Day Rocks.
My God. Is this Oscar? How you doing, man?
What's going on, man?
Oh, yes. Man, what's up, brother?
Before I say anything about Roddy Piper, let me ask y'all one question. Does New Day rock or what?
Oh, my God.
Oh, man. I've been telling people, man, New Day, all they had to do was let these brothers get out there and show their personality, and they're certainly doing that right now.
Oh, yeah, no, they showing a lot more than personality. Did you not see Raw last night?
Yeah. Oh, man, they killed me. What they going in the backstage segment? They killed me, man. They was killing me.
Well, they did more than kill. They didn't kill me. They gave me new life. They mentioned Doom, Harlem Heat, and drum roll, please. Men on a mission.
Yes.
Now, Felix, I'm going to tell you about Roddy Piper, but I've been buzzing about this all day. What do you make of that, Felix?
You know, and I posted this comment on your Facebook page when you posted that video. What if it led to something to where they brought Oscar to come back and have a match with you and Mo to come back to have a match, and if you're up for it, maybe you can get in the ring too, take a couple of bumps. I'm sure you're up for at least a one night stand kind of thing, and have you guys come in a tag match against the New Day, or team up with them, either way, and find a mystery partner maybe. Either way, maybe even the guy that's working with Mo now. But either way, I think it's an idea to bring the Men on a Mission back for a little hop, a little cheap hop, if you will, for those old school fans who remember that new generation era. I think it was a nice little plug for you guys. And hopefully at least something new to come for the future, for sure.
Yeah, I was talking to Mo earlier, and his whole thing for years has been, just some kind of acknowledgement on TV. He said if nothing else ever happened, that what happened last night was all he was talking about, was all he wanted. Now, of course, I'd like to see more, but
Sure.
yeah, I think it. I think it was huge.
Like that's gotta feel good because that, we were talking earlier, when we were talking about Roddy Piper about stuff that the writers write for these guys. Some writer didn't come up with that. That was coming from them dudes' heart. So, that's just a tip of the cap, a show of respect that when I heard that, I was like, you know what? Like I bet the boys over at Not Your Mama's radio show are going wild for that one.
No. You got it all wrong. It's deeper than that. Nobody says anything off the cuff like that, and it's not just something that a writer dreamed up. That particular segment and the mention of those groups, and particularly Men on a Mission, the permission to do that, or the order to do that, the direction to do that, had to come from up top.
You think so?
No, I'm telling you, that's how deep that is.
Okay. So when we talking top, we talking top.
You talking top. You talking between either Paul Levesque, Triple H, or Vince himself. They just can't go off. They can't go off the cuff like that.
No,
because there's some people that's buried, and the orders are for them to stay buried. Because you gotta understand something. This is kind of embarrassing, but this is the truth. There hasn't been a mention or an acknowledgement of Men on a Mission on that program in over 13, 14 years. So for whatever reason, I didn't burn no bridges. We could speculate, as to, why or whatever. They've acknowledged Mabel as Viscera, Big Daddy V, more times than you can count. But as far as Men on a Mission as a team, as a unit, it was almost like, it never happened. It didn't exist. It's an encyclopedia. It's a part of history you can't erase. But brought to the forefront like that, no, it hasn't been done for a very long time. Now, clear out the blue, on the heels of other things that have been said and done that have happened as late, all of a sudden, out the blue, Men on a Mission gets a mention on Raw. Because you got to understand something. There are 1,000 other tag teams they could have mentioned. But what I'm telling you is, no, that is not something that they just could have, just unscripted and did. That you are instructed as to what verbiage to use and what to say, and those instructions come straight from the heavens.
Okay.
We're definitely happy for you, man. We're definitely hoping, and I know I can speak for Nate. Hopefully it does lead to something for you guys to make an appearance on Raw, maybe an old school Raw, or maybe even pop in for a WrestleMania moment down in the future in Dallas or something.
Now Felix, I'm saying Felix. I'm saying push for the appearance, push for all that good stuff. But I'm talking about these dudes deserve Legends deals, video games, the whole shebang bang. That's Nate talking. So if anybody out there take offense to it, that's what I feel, because you talk about memorable teams in the history of this sport. You can't go too far before you mention Men on a Mission, because man, they were just such a great tag team, and you got one of the greatest hype men in the business hyping them up, coming to the ring. We talked about WrestleMania 10 earlier. I still remember the WrestleMania 10 rap with Men on a Mission. It's like, come on, man. It's about time that these dudes got their due.
No, you don't know how much I appreciate that, Nate. I appreciate that greatly. It's just, nothing bad can come of it. I'll put it like that. How far it'll go, I have no idea right now, but I will say this. that, last night was just an add-on because from what I understand, there has been a lot of notice on the network, not just people looking up, but just intermittent videos of us and mentions, and they featured the WrestleMania rap on the website, some months back, just off the clear blue. So, to me, there's something behind it. I just don't know. It just hasn't been revealed to me yet. But, I mean, hopefully I'll live long enough to see it.
I hope so, too. And I know that you guys got to be there for the little bit that Roddy was there. What memory did you have of working with Roddy, or even talking to him, or even seeing him as a wrestling fan that you can recall coming, about him?
There are a handful of people that I have to say inspired me to want to get in the business, and those are people that I would say that I was a fan of, watching wrestling before I even got in the business. And those are the people I honor the most. And Roddy Piper definitely fits into that mold. And when you get to meet the legends, you get to meet your idols, and they just come across as genuine and give you advice. And you standing there, it's a surreal moment. When you stand, it's like when I met Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra is the biggest star of my lifetime. So when I got to meet Frank Sinatra in a restaurant and have a conversation with him, I'm standing there like, I can't believe I'm talking to Frank Sinatra. And like, I can't believe I'm actually talking to Hulk Hogan. I can't believe I'm talking to Roddy Piper. I mean, he was real genuine. He was as funny in real life as he come across on television, real entertaining, a wealth of knowledge, really nice to the fans and all that. And I mean, it was, and like I said, I mean, there's a few people, I'll put it like this. Razor Ramon told the story the best, and I could always mimic this. He said when he had his match with Macho Man Randy Savage, when he was getting his head slammed to the steps by the Macho Man, he was still marked out. He was like, I'm marked out. I'm getting my head slammed to the steps by Macho Man Randy Savage. And I can relate to that because, you standing there, you get into the wrestling business, you break into it, especially the way I did. You marked out. I mean, you standing there with people that, a couple of months ago, you watching on TV, eating popcorn and enjoying. Bam Bam Bigelow, Macho Man, Hulk Hogan, Lex Luger, Yokozuna, J.J. Dillon, who was the vice president, who, as a manager, I was like the biggest fan of him with the Four Horsemen, and Roddy Piper in the ring with Morton Downey Jr., and then, too, they put that clip in my WrestleMania rap that I did, so, I really had a kindred connection, so for me, it was just surreal.
That's cool. And I believe that he always came across as a real genuine person, too. Sorry about that.
And I was just going to say, one of the things that really made me feel good was, the past couple of weeks we've had people from outside of wrestling show their love for Roddy Piper, whether it's, people in the music business, people in entertainment. And Roddy was one of those guys that was able to, not just be a big star in wrestling, but he was somebody like my mom, felt something when Roddy Piper died. She was like, oh, man, did you hear about this? And so, when you've got people that aren't regular fans of wrestling or regular watchers of wrestling and they feel sad about this passing, it just shows you how great Roddy's influence was to people.
I mean, there are a handful of people in the wrestling business that just transcends over wrestling. The kind of people that when something happens, tragically when they die or when they get married or when anything happens in their life, when E! News and CNN and MSNBC talk about it, these are people that are not just, they just don't have wrestling fans. People like Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, John Cena, The Rock, just to name Stone Cold, just to name a few of them. These people are household names to people that have never turned on a WWE program.
There you go.
These guys were people that crossed over you got a lot of us with the sport. Then you got some that are strictly the entertainment. Then you got some that are both, the sports and the entertainment. And those guys are both. Everybody in the locker room is not going on Letterman, and they're not going on the Johnny Carson show, and they're not going on Leno, and they're not going on Conan O'Brien. But the ones that do are the ones that crossed over, and that's what Roddy Piper was.
I couldn't have said it any better, man. He transcended different avenues of entertainment, and truly his legacy and his memories will live on, and not just the annals of WWE and wrestling, but all across entertainment. I mean, you think about They Live now being considered a cult classic. Collector, I think it always has been. They say it's probably his best movie ever. But he even, and many people don't realize, he actually even had a song on the I want to say it was the album in the 1980s. Gosh, I can't think. I'm drawing a blank on the name, but wrestling album that they did in the 80s, and he's just done it all. And then with his podcast too, I keep bringing this up because I know that I try to do this for the guys on Thursday. Is that I was trying hard to get Piper on the show for Oscar and Mo, and he always said that he said that if the time was I forget how he said it, but he said time and schedule working, considering everything works out, he'd do it. I guess he didn't know if we were doing it on air, online, not in person, but I'm sure, we could have got him on there, and you guys could have had a great time with him. And truly, this has definitely been a very rowdy tribute to the Hot Rod tonight. Hopefully, Oscar, if you take a listen to some of the clips we played and take you back to your younger years and listening to him from the days of Mid-Atlantic to NWA to Georgia Championship Wrestling to WCW, even the WWF, where he transcended entertainment, and I hope you enjoy it, man.
I mean, it was sad to find out when and the way we all found out because we was right in the middle of the Mid-Atlantic Convention. Everybody having a good time. These things, the best part about them, are the fans, but just as important is the reunion that we all have, because some of those guys you haven't seen in decades, and it's good to see them. But you get news like that, and everybody's all together, it changes the tone of the dinners and the award ceremonies, and, everybody. I mean, it's like everybody coming downstairs, and you done lost a family member, and it just changes the whole tone of those things when something like that happened. And that was the experience of when he died. He died, and we was all in the middle of the Mid-Atlantic Convention down there in Charlotte, and it was Rock Riddle that said it best. And then I'm gonna get off at the Cauliflower Alley Convention. Rock Riddle made a speech, and he said that. Matter of fact, it's in the newsletter that you got, Felix. Rock Riddle was at tears because he was saying that there are more than a handful of people who were not at Cauliflower Alley this year that are dead and gone, that were there last year, and he just hoping it ain't the same thing next year. That's pretty much the crux of his speech. And again, he was almost brought to tears, and it's just sad how many fallen heroes in our business we've had. It's almost like every other Raw, the whole roster is out, and they got to ring that bell 10 times because a legend done fallen.
It's like just this year when we were talking with Jimmy Valiant last week, man. It's like, whether it's Roddy or Dusty or Vern Gagne, man, it's like if you get a chance as a fan to go to one of these conventions and spend time talking to some of your favorite wrestlers, man, do it, because nobody's promised another day. So if you can show some love and show your appreciation for what they did, I'd advise you to.
I mean, you couldn't have said it better, because tomorrow's not promised. Every day we wake up is a gift, and as you can see by not just in wrestling but in entertainment and in our own family and our own walk through life, how many people precede us to that, precede us to glory. Personally, nobody saw the death of Nelson coming. I mean, it's not like he was sick or we was at his bedside or prepared. You know, I mean, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I get a text, you know, I'm sorry for your loss. I mean, what loss? And that was the way I found out, a devastating way to find out, and I was just as shocked. But the point being that you just never know. I mean, you cherish each other, get out and see everybody like Nate just said, you know, as best you can. Get that autograph so you can have it for posterity, that picture, so that when something happens, and it's going to happen to all of us. See, that's the whole thing. You know, death and taxes are two things that you're not going to avoid living this life. And so, you know, cherish each moment and let everybody you know and love and appreciate, let them know how much you care about them while they're here.
And on that note, folks, we are going to definitely bring the show to a close. I want to thank everybody for who called in tonight, from the gentleman from the area code 718 to Terry, to Elio 2 in Canella, to our good buddy here, Oscar, from our Thursday show, Not Your Mama's Radio Show. And let me just pose a scene here for you guys real quick before we go ahead and end the show tonight. I could just see Dusty Rhodes making his way down the ring to have a match with the Macho Man, Randy Savage. Gordon Soley and Gorilla Monsoon calling the action. All of a sudden, the doors open, and Hot Rod is there, and he's basically with his typical catchphrase, I am here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. Let's get rowdy! And he makes his way down to the ring to get involved in that match because they haven't got a little bit more rowdier this time around with Hot Rod making his way up there. And I will close now and say keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. Good night, everybody. Good night, guys.
All right, thanks, man.
All right, brother.